I can tell you some stories off record that happened. There's no way. There's no way. You say, John, that's crazy. Like the bank calling me on Monday saying we need 200 grand and I don't have it. And then I get a call from a partner in a commercial building that has no idea what I'm going through. It says, hey man, Brian and I were just talking, and dude, we know you have a lot of real estate. If you ever want to, we love this property, we'll buy you out. And I said, okay, I never thought that was an option. And the check, after it all cleared, 45 days later was 201. And I take it, I give it to the bank. That happened twice.
Yeah.
Twice. Within days of getting that call, things that just aren't natural happen.
Welcome to the Builder Straight Talk podcast with your host, Michael Creasa. Get the unfiltered truth from the trenches of construction, real estate, and funding. This episode is made possible by our parent company, Sound Capital, funding built for builders.
Well, hey there, friend. It's Michael Creasa here, your host at Builder Straight Talk. And this week, oh my gosh, I had the opportunity of reconnecting with a gentleman by the name of John C. Jones. And I use that word sparingly, I guess, gentleman, because I think he'd be offended if I called him that. But all kidding aside, I've known this guy for over 15 years, and it was wonderful to get to reconnect. And he has done so much over the course of his life. Started off by just knocking on doors to find properties for developers, which ultimately got him into developing, got him into real estate as well. He's a broker and a developer, and anything related to construction, you're going to find this guy from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, John Jones. And before we do a deeper dive, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and share to our podcast. It's the only way that we can get our message out to the world and cut through all the other noise that's out there. So please, with the flick of a mouse, just subscribe, like, and share. And without further ado, John C. Jones from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I know you're going to enjoy this conversation. Mr. John C. Jones, I'm excited to have you on the call. Excited is an understatement. First of all, it's been 15, 20 years since our paths have
Yeah.
crossed. You're still
Yeah.
as good looking as always.
Oh
And
man, you're so kind.
well, I've been drinking a lot more, so
You
maybe
want to
that
hang out? You want to
something to
hang
do
out
with
the
it.
rest of the day?
Yeah, can I borrow some money? How's that?
Yeah, I like it.
Well, man, you've had an illustrious career in real estate where you are, and I figured we'd unpack that. And the thing that really excites me as part of the conversation, you've also stepped from being a humble realtor that's really, really successful into being a developer. And I'm really intrigued by that and that journey. But let's rewind and start off with the beginning. Tell us a little bit about yourself and where you are.
Okay, John, as you said, John Jones. I'm in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is about 30 miles southeast of Nashville. We are a suburb to Nashville. Probably the most of the greater Nashville area, probably the more working class county. I've been in the business 32 years. I started in 1993. I was 24 years old, didn't have a clue, scared to death of everything, and basically built my career as a realtor. In 2008, my timing was perfect. I opened my own shop right as things in October, and went through those 5 miserable years, carrying 3 developments. But my bread and butter has always been the brokerage company, and we have a team of probably 25. We're a team-based company. We have 25 people that work for us, 5 or so administration, about 20 agents. And I had some cool mentors around me when I got in the business, and they were both developer. One of them was a developer builder, and so I kind of by osmosis learned a lot of that from those guys at the real estate office that I was formerly with and started with, and kind of just dipped into the development game probably in 2002, I think was my first one. And we kind of used it as a way to, obviously you want it to be profitable, make money, but we tried to also the synergies of what I did and trying to help my local builders find lots. So we obviously would represent those builders in our communities on the brokerage side and try to work hand in hand with those guys and try to, let them have some success. At the end of the day, I always tell my builders is like, look, if you're not making money, then this is not a good thing. You're not going to come back and buy lots from me. So I definitely want to price lots where they have a chance to make money and we have you know, develop a piece of property that the market's going to want. And, always thinking about what is the product we're going to put here. And so, everybody is happy.
Yeah, let's park that for a sec, man, because you're getting ahead of
Mhm.
the game here.
All right,
I really
sorry.
want to go
Oh,
in the deep end of the development side, but let's go back
okay.
to like you're 24 years old. You probably
Mhm.
got a paper route. Maybe you don't even have a car. Like, what the heck motivated you to go into real estate as opposed to that career in modeling that you were thinking
Yeah,
about?
well, yeah, it was a tough decision, but I started with State Farm Insurance right out of college. I was a claims adjuster. I was sitting in an office in Chattanooga, not an office, a 5 by 5 cubicle, and I realized I am not built for this. And my uncle owned a real estate company in Murfreesboro, and he was a charismatic, just, God, it's hard to even explain, what a personality and presence he was. And even growing up, he would come up to me at Christmas and hand me $100 and say, "Hey, you're gonna be one of my best agents," and God and all this. He kinda kept telling me that, and I didn't even understand how you got paid in real estate. But I just knew I was homesick, I was lovesick, and I knew I didn't wanna stay in this cubicle. So I made a career change, and I said, "I'm gonna go home and sell real estate," and I didn't even own a home. I was scared to death. The only people I really dealt with for the first year was new home buyers because they were the only people I was not intimidated by. And actually, one of the mentors in my office, by God's grace, the only empty office I was put in there was a fellow by the name of John Floyd, who had started his career as a realtor, but had evolved into a builder, spent half his time at the building office from like 6 to noon, would come to the real estate office, make sure all his listings look good on his properties. And I would just sit there and badger the living hell out of this guy, ask him everything. And he basically told me, here's what you need to do. Now you got to remember, this is back in 1993. He was building homes that I was selling for 79.9, new homes, starter homes. And he would take me out to the subdivision. He said, here's what you do. You sit out here in this subdivision. Cause this was in the springtime, as the days were getting longer, he said, come out for open houses on the weekend, but drive around here about 5 o'clock, kind of hang out. You'll see people kind of creeping through. He says, you get out and you say, hey, I'm John Jones. I mean, this is how he did it. You say you're John Jones. I said, okay, I got that. He goes, you guys want to look at one of these homes? I'll unlock them for you. They're going to say yes. You let them go. As they come back, you kind of make small talk with them. You ask them, where are you living now? They're going to say, Summer Place Apartments. Then you're going to say, how much is your payment? Then they're going to say, 525. And then you're going to say, well, then you're going to pull out your Texas Instrument calculator and you're going to go, doot, 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 doot. Do you know I can put you in with this? You can build your own house as long as it's like kind of like the Model T, as long as they wanted like three different plans. You can build your own house on any lot out of here, and I can keep your payments about 6.25. And do you mind painting? No. Do you mind seeding and straw in the yard? No. I can get you in here with a little sweat equity for 1,500. How's that sound? And that's how I sold probably my first 20 houses.
Man. Yeah,
And I
so,
did it exactly the way he told me to do it.
it's funny back then, we didn't really have any of the big sales trainers like the Floyd Wickmans, the Mike Ferries of the world. They weren't even out yet. What would that be?
No,
You
not
figured
many. I
80s?
learned from a guy, I was lucky. My broker was adamant on training, which was rare back then. Most people, "Hey, here's a desk, go get them, kid." We went through, I don't know if you ever remember this guy, his name was Roger Butcher, and
Yeah.
we went through all the Roger Butcher tapes. A lot of the stuff I still say today, man. But he was a pretty funny guy. He would say, like, he was big on, like, when somebody calls in on a property, obviously probably not gonna buy that house, you try to switch them, whatever, you make conversation, try to build a face-to-face contact, and he said, "You always get a number from them. 'Cause you don't have a number, you can't call them back." So I would always ask people, and he would say, "Look, if they won't give you a number, like if you say, 'Hey, Mr. So just in case we get discount, have your number,' and they won't give it to you, your comment would be, 'Why are you in jail?'" You know? And there was funny things I remember about that, and he would always say, if you're door knocking and they come up to you and they have like a little no solicitation sign on their window or whatever on the door, and they come up and they go, "Hey, can you read the sign?" You go, "Oh, I don't smoke." And then you go right back into your, like routine or whatever you're saying, stuff, little witty things like that. But, yeah,
That sounds like you remember Jerry Bresser?
no,
Ah, Jerry, he was the
huh?
wordsmith. He did all the, objection handling techniques and stuff, and I still have his books here today. There was, like, solid gold. his responses. But you've always been that kind of guy. Like for you, it was about going to the agents that are doing the production and hounding
Mhm.
them to share what it is that they're doing. So you were never shy about asking questions or asking for help.
I've always been curious by nature, and I always, wanna know the backstory. I wanna know more, and thank God, I didn't even realize that was a skill till you get in sales and, like, asking questions is, like, the number one skill, but I was just always curious, and I remember Howard Britton always said, "Get out of judgment and get into curiosity. Find out what these people are doing," and star power was a big part of that, and, I found that a little later, like in the probably about 6 years, 7 years in the business, and that was unbelievable, Everything I've ever done, like, I remember the moving truck. I went to one of the Star Power conferences back in the '90s, and they had this big moving truck. It was Nate Martinez, and I thought, "Man, that's the greatest idea I've ever heard. When I go home, I'm getting a damn moving truck." Then I would get home, and I get scared, and it wasn't so much the money, it was more like, "What are the other agents in town gonna say about me?" And I had all these little stupid fears, and it literally took me 3 years to finally do the moving truck, and when I did it, I was the first one in my market to do it, and I mean, to this day, I have people come up to me and go, you're a genius marketer. That's the most brilliant thing we've ever seen." I'm thinking, I just stole it, because hell, I'm not smart enough to come up with any of that stuff. I'm smart enough to know when something's good, use it,
Well,
right?
that's the trick, man. You see something good and you implement it, right? And that's
Mhm.
when I used to do training, showing agents how to do video using their phone. The biggest obstacle, and I used to tease them on stage. Yeah, you're too fat, you're too ugly, yeah, all that stuff. Get over it, press the record button, do the video. But the thing that's holding you back, it's the cellophane around the last product that you bought because they
Right,
never open it. So, all the
right.
secrets to real estate success are right there at their
Sure.
fingertips, but they'll never implement. So, the fact that you're talking to these big top
Yeah,
producers, they'll tell you everything they're doing because they know 99.9% of realtors will never take that advice and execute it.
100%.
Yeah.
They won't. I don't know why we have all these fears, but we do, and
Yeah, I guess we wanna be loved, that's the big thing. I think there was, a guy, he was my mentor, Cliff Baird, clinical psychologist, and once upon a time, I think he owned 33 real estate offices, and he was one of the top speakers. He was up there with Mike Ferry, Walter Sanford, and they used to travel the country together, and this is in the days they were making money large, they were rock
right,
stars,
right,
selling
right.
their remember it was the cassette tapes, the VHS
Yeah,
tapes or whatever?
yeah.
But he told me this story about going up to a FSBO, and being a clinical psychologist, he equated it to what it was like to being addicted to drugs. And like so side by side, he said, when somebody shoots up and they put the needle in their vein, it's not the drugs, it's that sudden release of endorphins because all the tension has now been released. He said,
Mhm,
realtors, it's exactly the same thing. They pull up to an open house or sorry, for sale by owner, and they want to go there. But thank God they got the realtor watch on and they're either too late or they're too early. So they'll write down the phone number because they're going to call back and they speed away. And at that moment, as they're leaving, it's the same thing. There's that rush of endorphins and it reinforces the bad behavior. He said, what you got to do is realize that when you go knock on that door, those people, they don't know you and they don't give a lick if you get hit by a bus. No
mhm.
disrespect, but you've got no influence on their life whatsoever. And why would you want to give them that much power? He said, what you need to do is think about who are the people in your life that are important, that if anything happened to you, they would mourn for you, they would miss you. He said, you
Yeah,
take that picture and you put it on the visor of your car. And whenever you get into that situation that you're hesitant or you're reluctant, you pull the visor down, you look at that picture because these are the people that are counting on you to go out hunting today and bring back a carcass.
that's brilliant. Larry Kendall told me, and it echoed with me, and I use it to this day, and it's 100% what you're saying. He says, Fear is the absence of love. So if you want to get rid of the fear of maybe calling people or whatever, fear of, rejection, call reluctance, he said, just get in the spirit of love. And that, you know what, whoever I'm going to talk to today is going to hear a guy that truly wants to love on them and help them solve whatever problem they have. And it's amazing when you get to that, you can almost hear it in my voice right now, and it's coming through the phone. They feel that. and it makes any call or any interaction a lot more doable, and the way they receive it. And I usually never got cussed out if I was in that right spirit of love because they felt it, you know? And here's something else along what you said. I tell my people today, when you call somebody that, warm lead, whatever, they come through on the internet and they don't know you and they are rude to you or they hung up. I said, don't let that derail your day because how many times have you done that to telemarketers? And I said, how bad do you feel about it after you say, "Don't ever call me again, you son of a bitch," and you hang up? How much did you think about that after you hung up? And they go, "I don't." Well, they ain't thinking about it 5 seconds after they hang up on you. So why in the hell are you gonna think about it? You know what I mean? They don't care. Why should you care? And it
Yeah.
just kinda gives that kinda reminder that they don't know us. It's not personal. They're probably going through something that day. Who the hell knows? I don't know, but let's keep rocking and rolling.
Well, that's the thing you just said. They're going through something that day, and that's the way I used to spin it because of the interaction I had with them. Maybe they're not going to hit their spouse or kick their dog,
Right.
right?
I
So
mean, hell, they could've just lost a kid 2
yeah,
days ago. They could've the dog died. Who knows? Who knows?
yeah.
But it's not personal.
Well, I think coming at this from a builder's perspective, you would appreciate this that you measure twice and cut once. That's why you've got
Right.
2 years to listen, and before you open your yip, what is it that I can add to the conversation, like bringing a log to the fire that warms them
Mhm.
up, rather
Right.
than try to jump in right away and sell them something.
You're right.
Right.
100%.
And so one of the things that I do, and I wish I could say it's my idea, but like you, I took it off somebody else, is rather than say, "Hey, how you doing?" "How's your day?" Which is what we're conditioned to do, and the
Sure.
response is, "Yeah, good, thank you."
Yeah. Pretty good.
You've already been disengaged mentally.
Right.
But
Right.
when we started this call, I said, "Hey, John, tell me something exciting that's happened
Right.
to you today." And it's like, wait a minute, that's not the traditional question.
Pattern disruptor.
Yeah, and now you actually think about it, and next thing you know, we're engaged in a conversation.
It's the same thing of like when, you're always taught to ask everybody you know, do they know anybody wanting to buy or sell a home? Well, if you, "Hey, Mike, do you know anybody right now wanting to buy or sell a home?" You can shrug that off, "No." But if I say, "Hey, Mike, who do you know in your life that needs help with real estate? Who?" Now you gotta think, because I rephrased it with a who, right? It's just little things.
This conversation is going to be all over the reservation, but a savvy builder, if he's listening to
Yeah,
this, these are the
yeah.
tips that he can be using with his sales team.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%,
Because
100%.
again, let's give you some accolades, man. You rose to be the number one, I think, top 1% agent in your marketplace.
Yes. We've been the number 1 agent in our marketplace. When I say we now we do everything with teams, and I know that's but we've been number 1 for 15 or 20 years. I don't know. It used to be a big deal to me,
Yeah,
but as you grow up a little bit, you realize, you know what? That's not that big a deal. I need to be more I need to be profitable. You can spend your whole damn you can buy the business if you want to, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
But, there was a time where everything was about being number 1, everything was about being number 1, but then you realize that's it's pretty shallow and just
yeah. But it must have been such a pain in the ass having to build another bookcase to hold all those trophies.
oh, yeah, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt.
I want to say one of the things, like you were an early adopter, and
Mhm.
again, you weren't fearful about asking for help, asking questions, but you were one of the first to implement teams in your marketplace.
In our market, 100%, because I was going to these star power events. This is crazy. I'd never heard really the term, and this is late '90s, buyer agent,
Yeah,
It was we did, so and teams and all this, and my market back then, even up into the '90s, even with the Remaxes out there, we were still kind of an old rural kinda 50-50 market, which is the way they'd done real estate for 100 years. You work for a broker, and if you really did good, you go to 60%. So there wasn't a ton of money there to even have a team, so to speak, but when I met with Ralph Roberts one time, I shadowed him, and he told me the first thing I need to do when I go back is, well, I asked him, "What's the first thing I need to do?" And he goes, "Do you have an assistant?" And I said, "No, well, I really don't know that I can afford one," all the little scary things you go through, and he said, "Well, how much do you make an hour?" And I go, "Well, damn, Ralph, we get paid on commission." He goes, "Hey, dum dum, figure out how much money you made last year and approximately how many hours you worked and da da da." So I came up with 75 bucks, Michael. He said, "Now let me ask you a question. Why are you who's doing all this for you? Who's measuring your houses? Who's putting in your" And, I said he goes, "You're doing it, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I bet you're not that good at it, are you?" He goes I go, "No, not really. I'm the guy ordering the termite letter, paying the guy an extra 100 an hour before the damn closing because I forgot." And he said, "Hey, I was the same way." He goes, "Right now," and this is in the '90s, he said, "You can pay somebody $10 an hour to do this for you, and that's gonna take that 75 and push it to 150, and you're gonna have a life. You're gonna have a better life." And he was 100% right, and I did it, and that's the first thing I did, just hired an assistant, and that's how it started.
We can take what you just said there and pivot it and apply it to developers, home builders, same thing, because
Yeah,
they're doing the change orders, they're doing the estimates, they're running around to all the different job sites. And if they actually sit down and take what did I earn last year, divide that by the number of hours that I put in, seriously, the
mhm,
number of hours, it probably comes out to 20, $25 an hour. And if that's what they're making, they're better off at McDonald's because they're going to get fed and they're going to get a uniform. And it's once you have that critical mindset, and this is the E myth. Michael Gerber said this, that now I can focus on working on my business versus being stuck in it. I don't need a job. And for many builders, that's what they've done. They've created a job for themselves, but it's not a vocation. It's not a vehicle that's going to get them to retirement to enjoy their life. So
right.
you discovered that early. You got to step back
Yeah,
and
I mean,
delegate the things that you can't do.
you're right on it. In fact, I've been trying to mentor a young builder right now, and he's got potential, but there's some things in his skill set that aren't great, but I said, "Man, I promise you, you can hire a really good guy that is gonna be so beneficial. Here's what you need to look for, and he's gonna cost you about 100 grand a year to get this guy. But once you get him and let go of a little of this that you're not really good at anyway, you'll be amazed at what will happen." And I think he's there. I think he's doing it, but it's the same thing in anything. You gotta leverage. You gotta use leverage or either go crazy. I
Yeah.
mean, you don't have to, but
I think that's where that fear creeps in again because, suddenly I'm spending 100 grand, but you're making an investment into your future that's probably going to pay you back 2 or 300 grand as a
yeah.
result.
Well, no, I said, I could tell he's scared. I said, "Hey, make it safe. Tell whoever you're about to hire, we're gonna go 90 days at this. We're have 90-day probationary. You have enough money paying for 90 days, yeah?" I said, "And then you're gonna see if it works, and that's a safe way to do it, and y'all shake hands. That's pretty ordinary anyway in any kinda line of work. You're gonna have a little probationary period. Make him earn his keep. If he's not the right guy, don't give up on the dream. Go find the right guy." And what is it? Quick to fire, slow to hire?
Yeah.
And I've done all that and screwed up on it and all that.
Well, you treat it as learning moments
Exactly.
versus beating yourself up.
I've had a hell of an education. I've got a PhD in, screwing shit up, I
I think you
promise
and
you.
I could teach the course, man. That's for sure.
But you're right. Like, people ask me all the time, "What's the worst thing that's ever happened to you in real estate?" And I said, '08 through 13, '08 through 12, right? 2008, 2012. What's the best thing that's ever happened to me in real estate? 2008, 2012, because of what I learned, and I didn't quit. I did not quit. I kept the team together. We fought our guts out. I didn't have to declare bankruptcy. By the grace of God, don't know how I still look back and don't know how that didn't happen. And we came out of that so much stronger, and obviously because we kept everybody together, kept hustling, and when we went into these past 7, 8, 10 years, we had by far the best years we've ever had because we didn't quit. But quitting would have been easier, I promise you.
It reminds me of that quote that rough seas make for good sailors. So
Yes,
if you
exactly.
haven't gone through any storms, you're not going to be a good sailor, right? And it's the same in business. You're going to take your lumps, and if you're smart, you're going to learn from them, and you'll be able to anticipate what's going to happen next and prepare yourself.
I was carrying 3 developments through that time. That was tough because I didn't understand, like, I didn't realize that they could call me and go, "Hey, John, we reappraised the subdivision. Hey, man, thanks for making your payments. You're good at that. But, it didn't appraise quite what it did a few years ago. We're gonna need a couple hundred from each partner." And I said, "We need a capital call." I never heard the term, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I mean, I was just paralyzed, and that happened that happened multiple times. And I was just like, "Shit, man. Whoa." And I had to come up with it, and somehow I came up with it, but it was
You may
nuts.
want to write that one down because you're going to be getting a lot more of those calls because the Fed is now pulling back on banks, and the ones that have overextended by lending money to builders. They're saying, hey, the impact of that is you could be halfway through a build and the
Mhm.
bank is saying, well, guess what? We can't do the advance.
Right.
So now what do you do? Right?
Well, what we were dealing with back then, we were dealing with a lot of small regional banks because they can make their money doing these little more riskier development loans, builder loans, and those were the first banks, that where the examiners were underperforming. So once they start underperforming, the examiners came in and they're like, "Okay, what about this yahoo over here? He's got 20 rental houses with y'all? Yeah, but he's been great. He's making his payment. Yeah, that's too much. Y'all need to when these notes start, when they balloon, y'all need to get rid of this stuff. That guy's got too much." And here I am paying. We had 60 rental houses that we bought at pretty good prices that these local banks started making us dump. And I had so much fear, Michael, that I just did it. And I look back on that and I was like, why didn't I find somewhere, or at least try, some bank in Missouri, a local older individual that knows me well, that I can give him a deed of trust on every one of these homes that have good equity, that would be happy making 6% because he's not making it in his, what I mean? I could have figured out a way, Michael, but I let fear and those houses would be worth 3 times today, and all of them would have been paid off. You know what I mean? But I let fear because I was getting the development side, I was getting the banks on the development. Here comes the rentals. I couldn't sell houses, it just I'll just like up in my I tell people I was in a fetal position, up in my master bedroom closet until you finally say, "Screw it, I'm gonna do all I can do. I'm not gonna I signed these notes. I'm not gonna quit, and once they get it all, they can have it all, and I guess I'll have to declare bankruptcy, but I'm gonna do everything I can not to, because at the end of the day, I did sign the note, and I saw developers kinda playing the game where they'd bankrupt it, and all that.
Yeah.
I just didn't do that. I didn't do it. I didn't do it because you know what? At the end of the day, I gotta live myself, and I got, character's all you got.
And the ripple effect is all the damage you're doing
I
downstream,
I
right?
I agree.
Yeah.
It woulda hurt if it didn't hurt me professionally, it woulda hurt my soul. You know what I mean? That I didn't honor what I said I would do,
Yeah.
and I could have honored it. Like, it's one thing if you can't, you just say, "Hey, I'm out. I don't have any more." But if you kinda can, but you're kinda playing the game, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think
I don't know.
you just opened up the door for me to say, Sound Capital. That's the company that fuels the podcast, right? And they're private equity. And the thing that I love about them is they're the builder's friend. It's financing built for builders. That's kind of how I coined it. And what makes it cool is they work with you. So if you want them to act as a CFO, because the biggest mistake, or there are several that builders make, is they fall in love with a project. And then they'll
Mhm.
come in as a third set of eyes and go, hey, John, did you realize you got some alligators here in the weeds? And they'll point out the subtle things that you may not have thought of because you're so enamored by the project.
It's kinda like a kid.
Yeah.
You get daddy eyes, and you think, "Well, he's gonna be the best damn pitcher out there," and then you need somebody to come over and say, "He's really not that good, but he's probably
Yeah.
not going Division I."
And
But
they
no, you're
want,
right. You
and
can fall in love with it, and you have your own biases, and you need an outside set of eyes.
yeah, and these guys want you to succeed. So the thing that really makes them stand out is when they commit to funding, that money's put in escrow. So
Mhm.
there isn't going to be a recall or halfway through you're worried about, oh, where's the next advance going
No,
to come? It's there. It's
right.
guaranteed.
I read an article not too long ago, I don't know if you ever heard of this guy, I can't remember his name. He was the architect or started Discovery Land, which is a very prestigious golf course community builder and homes, and I don't know how he does it, and he just did one in our area in Franklin, and he comes in, and they sell these lots for, like, 4 times what they're selling them for over here because he creates this environment, he gets celebrities in there, he creates this the wow factor, it's unreal, and I read an article about him, and he said every project he's ever done has been with private capital, and the reason when you have private capital, he says, you can weather the storm, if there is a storm. Hey, I learned the hard way back in '08, man, with a bank. Hey, they don't care. They don't. It's just the way they're built. They gotta satisfy somebody, and they wanna
Yeah.
go get the money where they can get it, and shit, they're burning it down, man.
But there's a big difference between private capital and hard lending. because
Okay.
you've got a percentage of those guys. They'll give you the money, especially when you're in dire straits, because they're
Mhm.
hoping you're going to fail. Because then
Mhm.
they swoop in like
Oh,
vultures and they take everything.
no. No, I've seen those situations
Yeah, and
too.
you got to be very careful. Anyway, without making this into an infomercial
No,
about
I'm
sound,
sorry.
yeah, I got to get you to connect with those guys.
Let's focus.
Let's put the hat on your development. You're a developer guy. Like, how
Mhm.
did that start? Because now it's a balancing act between being a broker training your agents, but you're also looking at the ability now to do
Mhm.
your own subdivisions. Tell me about that.
Early 2000s, I talked to my uncle who was a developer, and I was talking, I'm young. I'm 30 years old, and developer years, I think that's young. And, John Floyd, who owned this company, and I was like, "Man, I really wanna get into development, man. How much money do I need? Tell me kind of, love to do something." And John Floyd looked at me, who's a big home builder and, still one of the biggest in the state, and he said, "I'll tell you what, here's how you can help. You find me the right piece of property that works for what I do, and you won't have to have one dime. I'll put you in there at whatever, 20%, but find it. Because the key is finding it, the way you buy it and what you buy and where you buy it." So that was my first one. I found it and not one dime. And now, granted, it never made any money because we took it through the damn recession, but we didn't lose. I mean, we made a little bit, but that's how I got my first one. But I went to every engineering meeting. I went to the planning commission meetings. I went to the rezoning meetings. And I just kind of started kind of connecting the dots by him giving me that opportunity to ride along on his coattails. And people ask all the time, how do you get in? How can I get in real estate? Go find, I tell them, go find me go find it. And if it's worth a damn. Now, here's what was interesting. Through the process of me trying to find something for him, I didn't know shit. I didn't understand where sewer lines were. I didn't understand in the county it had to have certain kind of soil, right? So I would take him hey, what about this 100 acres? What about this
Yeah.
50 acres? And thank God he was decent enough not to just call me a dumbass because some of the stuff I took him, I look back on it, it was 100 acres of rock. You can't really do much with it. He would sit me down. He goes, let's look at the soil maps. Or he goes, let's pull up the sewer. Let's go down to water and sewer and see where the sewer is. Or he would tell me why it wouldn't work. And then he'd always say this. He'd go, keep bringing them. He goes, you have to kiss a lot of frogs to find the prince. But with the 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or how many ever I brought him, I learned something new every time. So I didn't make that mistake again. Let me check the soils. Let me learn about soils. Let me check where the freaking sewer is. How far is it away? Is it available? How big's the sewer line? So through that, that was a hell of a process getting to the one we finally got. And I learned so much through that. And so all of a sudden, I'm not intimidated anymore once I went through that process.
It's because you don't know what you don't know
You don't.
until you know, right? And that's where you are right now. How do you I would think that you've got the big builders like the D.R. Hortons of the world are scoping
Mhm.
out Tennessee and that whole area.
Big time.
How are you competing against them? Because they've got big bucks, and when they do a deal,
Oh,
they'll
yeah.
tie up thousands of
Sure.
acres, and
They
they don't
don't
even have
yeah.
to pay.
If they want I think we talked about this, or I told somebody, when they wanna be somewhere bad enough, they don't care if they have to buy the property at X, even if and basically, like, as a middleman developer, obviously, I wanna make my sliver. I wanna we used to call it a third, a third, a third. When I got in the business, it's totally changed now, but, if you were in the lot for 10, your development would be about 10 per lot, and I would make about 10. I could sell that lot for 30, and be about 30. Now that's all twisted. That development cost is way up there. So when we were immune from the big builders until after the great so during what happened here, we had a lot of local develop I didn't realize how odd it was, now that I've been around, seen other places, it was kinda weird. It was very ancestral. We had local builders here in Murfreesboro, local developers, and a lot of mom and pop builders. And so nationals would still come in every so often, but they would leave because they're like, "We can't compete with these yahoos. They don't probably ain't," and they were probably right, probably weren't even making money and putting all this trim and stuff, and they were building these boxes, you know how they do. And, so they would come and leave, come and leave. Well, in the recession, I think it was NVR bought a project that from the bank, from a local guy, and really got a foothold in here. And then a lot of the builders, the 3 main developers in our town had gotten after the recession, they gotten beat up once, a couple of them just got beat up. They were at an age where they weren't just out chasing it anymore, and then all of a sudden, that's who I'm competing with. So the way I compete with them, sometimes they're the client. Sometimes I find something I'm like, "Shit, their offer's too good," you know? I'll sell it to them or flip it to them or whatever. But I've tried not to get into those big projects. The recession taught me that too. If I see a project's 300, 400 lots, and it's probably where I am in my life at 56, I'm like, you know what? I may be missing opportunity, but I'm just like, I want the 40, I want the 30 to 50 lot projects that they're probably not even that interested in because I can get in, get out quick. Like we just did one the other day where we did 38 lots and we closed, but I closed all the lots in one day. So boom, I'm done. I sold them all to the builders. They got the lots. I didn't have to do it. I was getting a little concerned because the market's been changed. I was like, shit, I may have to get in the whole takedown thing again. But there was still strong enough demand for those lots that they went ahead and took them. So boom, I'm out. I mean, I'm not out. I still got to pave the roads down the road and get my, but you know what I'm saying? I've got my money.
Yeah.
Where those developments I was in '08 or during the recession, hell, I'm still in one of them. I mean, it was 300, 400 lots and it's been a 20-year deal. And if you got a 20 or 3 or 400 lots, typically you're going to probably go into one recession holding that sucker unless you get lucky.
Yeah, you're gonna take your
So,
hits. Well, what's the sweet spot for you now, John, when you're looking at something, yeah, like doodly-doo, you're driving around, beer in your, one hand, your wife in the other. "Ooh, here's a
mhm.
piece of property that I wanna jump on." What is it that catches your eye?
Man, there's so many different, that's a great question, but obviously location is always to me the key. Like, is this a place? And then of course, I've learned to look, and thank God we're in a town. Our city's flat as a flitter, which is very conducive to development. So if I see anything with about a 2-foot rise, I'm like, "Oh, shit, look at that topo. I don't want that." But I look at that. We have a lot of rock here. So when I say rock, hey, rock costs you money. We got limestone, and you gotta blast the hell out of it, and it gets expensive. I wanna see location. Are my utilities here? Is sewer here? Zoning? But location is like the number one thing I'll look at is like, okay, where is this? Can this stand the test time? What's the school district? Because I think that's what's important to people, schools, location, access to interstate. But I can be enamored just by the beauty of the property as well. I can get in that game and then I'm like, well, shit, it's 20 miles from the interstate. You know what I mean? I have to kind of, come on, big boy, be easy to develop, but I don't know if anybody buy it.
Yeah, in terms of the homes that you're building, is there a price point that you try to stay to?
Man, in our market, I don't build per se. I might back some builders every now and then, but, like, right now, the projects we're in is a luxury product in our town, but it was in an area of our city by the Stones River Country Club, which is a more affluent area. It's an older area. There are these big, nice acre lots with these big sprawling ranchers, from back in this is where so back when I grew up here, like in the '70s, this was like Mayberry. So that's where the doctors lived because there really wasn't that many people around here with money. The doctors, the few people that had a few bucks lived on Riverview Drive. There was 23 acres. Really, there was 40 acres. There's two different farmers that still had their little parcels of land in this very nice community, right? And most people didn't even really know they were there unless they got on Google because they had them tree lined all the way around. So people really didn't even know what was back there. And I was lucky enough. It's so funny that there was a lawyer in town that I knew represented the family, the Nelson family. And I knew they'd been hit up for 60 years to sell this piece. It's the last little green spot in this great area. And I knew him pretty good. I'd seen him 4, 5, 6 times a year, and every time I saw him for the last 10 years, we'd shoot the bull, right, usually about UT football, and I would say, "Hey, by the way, the Nelson's getting any closer to selling because there's, like, 6 heirs, and they can never get on the same page." And he'd giggle, "No, no, no, shit, no, no." And I did it about 2 years ago. I was in his office, and I said, "Hey, I gotta ask you, I always do, are the Nelsons getting ready to sell?" And he looked at me, he goes, "John, you know what? You call John Nelson today. I think they're all on the same page." And I called him and he said, "Well, Johnny, we're thinking about it. You want to meet?" And I met him out there at the old home place. and we sat by the pool, and I said, "How much do you want an acre?" And he said, 625, and I've learned and that was fair actually, but I've learned even if it ain't fair, yes, we're gonna sign it up. I'm gonna have my due diligence. Now, I may have to come back and beat him up a little bit depending on how things work out with the but don't sit there and haggle over a few bucks. Get it signed up and get it in contract. I did it, and we we closed it, and I've actually built my personal house on it. It was that good a location. Just got that done. That was 2 years, and, oh, man, it turned out great, but it was pure me ask it just goes back to even in sales. Ask,
Yeah.
ask, you know?
So you said you're not the developer. What do you do? You're doing the
No,
land?
I'm not the builder. I don't build the homes. I
Okay,
develop the lots and I sell to builders, and our company represents those builders exclusively in the subdivisions I develop. So
got it.
I buy the land, I put it all in, and then I sell the lots to the builder.
So let's talk about that. How do you fund? So I mean, again, there's options. Is it your money? Is it investors? Is it the bank? Is it hard money?
I think in all everyone I've done, for the most part, we've used local banks, and I think what is it, 25 I usually got about 25% of my money, in it, as far as the land cost. Like, if the land costs me 2,000,000, I'll have to come up with about 400, and usually they'll do the development loan, maybe 25%, and then they'll do the development loan on top of that after we, get it zoned and everything.
So you're buying the raw land, you're taking it to entitlement, and then you're going to decide if you're going to build or you're going to sell it off to somebody else. Is that kind of the game plan?
Well, we're gonna decide whether we're gonna go through the process. I mean, there's so many, hell, I just did one after spending $90,000 on due diligence, had it tied up, realized we got a big stream coming through there. It's gonna cost 3,000,000 to, mitigate and, go back to the farmer, "Hey, can you come off 3,000,000?" And that usually goes over like, a turd in a punch bowl, and now I'm $90,000 less, whatever, wealthy. And, but no, what we do is we buy it, we tie it up, figure out the zoning, have a good due diligence period, may have to pay for a few extensions, whatever. And then as we get the lot, then we'll go develop the lot. Now, sometimes, in a few occasions, we've entitled it and maybe flipped it to somebody that wants it really bad. But in most cases, then we get a development loan, develop those lots, put in the street, sewer, everything. Then I'm selling those lots to builders, and we're trying to make our little sliver.
Got it. Has there ever been a project that you fell in love with, but then as you got into it, you wish you never got out of bed that morning?
Well, all of them during the recession, I was in love with all of them, and then all of a sudden, nobody was buying lots, but nothing not usually we figure out the really bad stuff, just like the one I just told you. I was so in love with that project. It was 100 acres. It was beautiful. I didn't see any wetlands. I didn't see anything that remotely looked like a stream. It was backing up to the core property on the river. Great location. I was enamored with it. And then 7 months in, we're dealing with the environmental, and they're like 7 months into due diligence, and after we paid for every study known to man, and this is kind of the last one, they said, there's a whatever they call it, wet weather conveyance." And I was like, "Oh, shit, how much?" He's like, "Well, can we buy around it?" He goes, "No, it's right by the road, and we were having to widen the road." And I said, 750 feet, and to mitigate that, you have to buy streams over here in land banks." This is crazy. So it was 3,500 a square foot. I mean, not square foot, a linear foot. So that's 3,000,000 bucks approximately. And it killed the deal. And yeah, so there's one. That's a good one. That's fresh. Those ones are still so I
Wow.
went from doing a great project that was awesome to losing 90,000 trying to find, to whatever, figure it out.
Well, tell me about Riverview Cove. That sounds like that's been a home run for you.
Yes, that's been unbelievable. That's the one in the luxury part of town where I built, and what's interesting, it's high end for our market. Everything's over, probably 1,200,000 upwards to 3,000,000 in there depending. And even in the back and what's crazy, we got the lots ready for the first section of it. We got the lots ready in '23. I think they closed right there when the rates shot up. basically 3 points almost overnight. And I'm sitting here going, "Oh, yeah." And that's when we had the lots. The builder's still closed, but I'm still thinking, "Man, I gotta sell these things. Shit, this could be slow going, you know?" And what I found in our market, those people that are buying those homes and the location was so damn good, they weren't really beat up by the rates like maybe an everyday person, right? Middle Amer So we've kept moving through that, and we're in our second phase of it that we just closed on. But, yeah, it all happened right when the rates went up. It's
Yeah, so
crazy.
right now, like, sales are down, interest rates are relatively high, people are saying. What are you doing to cut through the noise to be able to get your property sold? Are you trying to compete on price? Are you trying to do, rate buy downs? Are you throwing in free trips to Hawaii?
No, that's a great question, and, I had a long conversation with a builder about this 2 days ago, and he's got a very big project that still has a lot of time left on it, and he was like, "Man, what do I need to do? Do I need to cut prices, or do I need to offer incentives?" And I said, "Usually, I always say price is king." Like, if I'm dealing with an existing homeowner, I'm like, "Get the price down. It needs to look better to the market." They're not picking up or they haven't seen the value. Get the price down. That's how everybody searches. But with a builder, you start doing that too much. Now I'm screwing up my comps, right? And so, man, I said I definitely would aggressively, you know, buy down rate. Talk about buying down the rate. Get that payment lower for them, right? That's what I would try. Then if that doesn't work, then you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta cut prices, you gotta do something. You can't the biggest mistake I see builders and John Floyd taught me this with Old South Homes. He said, "Look, if I've got a house that's been finished for 60, 90 days, somebody's gonna get a deal, and I'm gonna move on. I'm not gonna sit there and try to keep milking something out of something that's not there." Anytime you build speculatively, it's it's gambling.
Yeah.
So, you wanna hit doubles, right? But you're gonna have some strikeouts, you're gonna hit some grand slams, but not every one of them's gonna make money, and I've had builders saying, "Well, if I can't ma I'm not selling it if I can't make my percentage." And I'm like, "Well, what's your percentage gonna be in 7 months after carrying it? And then you're still gonna end up with a lower price, dum-dum." But we're talking about buying down rates. I think everybody lives on a monthly budget for the most part, and you gotta give them something safe and say, "Hey, look, we can buy down this rate 2 points or whatever it is, and we can get your payment down to here." Because what we have right now, we got a lot of people saying even people that can do things, they're saying, I'm waiting, I'm gonna wait till these rates get down." I said, "Look, if you wait for rates, if they do get down to 5% or whatever, I promise you're gonna be paying a hell of a lot more for this home because it's gonna be crazy again. So why don't you take the best of both worlds? Let's buy down the rate. Let's see if the seller will buy down the rate for you, and you're getting this home at this price. And then when rates go down, you can refi." What they say, marry the house, date the rate. But people are scared. People are just scared. There's a lot of things going on. I tell you things we're not talking about, and I think this applies to the community that watches this and listens to this. You know, I think number one, I think a lot of America's gotten out there on credit card debt. I saw the other day where it's about as high as it's been. Okay, but here's something I don't think people are talking about. We sold a ton of homes to immigrants. The loans, the FHA, they're called I-9 loans. If they're here to work. One community we sold 48 of 53 homes to Egyptians that had moved to Nashville because they're buying they wanna buy homes. They work 3 jobs to buy homes. Well, when Trump came in and they, changed a lot of policies, one of them that really got affected was the loans that these guys can get. They can't get them. They can still get them, but it's a very small box. And I was talking to the Old South builders the other day. I said, "In the last 5 years, how many of your homes," because they sell a lot of starter homes and stuff, what percentage would you say were those kind of immigrant loans or whatever we call them, I-9 loans? He said 20%. They're not in the market right now. They're not. And the national media is not talked about. I don't even know if they understand it, but it occurred to me because we were selling a home the other day to somebody in that boat, and we did a rate buy down, and I looked, and the son of a gun was still paying 8.5%. And I called the lender and I said, "What the hell?" He said, "Man, these things are hard as hell to get." So anyway, I think that's definitely something we're not thinking about. If think about it, if that what let's say it was 5% of the market nationally, that's a big chunk of buyers that were in the market that aren't, but I think it was higher than 5%. I don't know how the hell you can figure it out.
Man. I was gonna say there's a guy that I interviewed, his name is, Nikolai Pascal Nikolai, and his company is called Sable Homes, and he came from France, 2008, right during the recession, and thought this is a perfect time to start up a building company. Like, who knew? And he was buying court sales. So he would sit on the courtroom steps waiting for these sales, and he was fire sales, right? And he would get them, fix and flip, and he amassed an empire doing this. And then
Right.
ultimately now he's in Miami building high-end luxury homes, anywhere from 10, 15. I think the record for him is $80 million home, which just boggles the
I
mind.
love that.
But what he's done is when he builds the home, he builds it with himself in mind, meaning if I was gonna live in here, what would I want? So
Right.
when it's done, everything's done. Like the furniture's there, a coffee machine, you could move into it. And his
Wow.
logic is if I can't sell this within 60 days, then I've got somebody that I know is going to be renting it short term. And he makes it
Right.
perfectly clear that you could be out in 6 months, but that
Mhm.
reduces his loan to value ratio because now he's getting an income and he can
Yeah.
move on to the next project.
No, that's awesome, and that brings up back when I was in the recession, I remember thinking, I look at these lots, I could not give a lot away. I couldn't. I couldn't give one away, and I would look at those lots and said, "Damn, I wish I had a house on it I'd built because at least I could rent that to somebody." The lots, all I did was cut the grass, pay the taxes, and then get beat up on capital calls because I wasn't selling lots, you know? So, there's a lot of logic to that. I have a buddy in Destin, Florida, same exact thing. He builds really nice homes, you know, and he goes ahead and furnishes them and does everything because he's gonna put them on a short-term rental program and keep rocking.
Yeah. I think we've covered a lot of ground here, young man. What would you, as a developer, right? What would
Mhm.
be the advice that you've got to somebody who's just looking to get into the game? Because traditionally, what happens, it's somebody that's pouring concrete, or it's somebody that's been framing homes, and they think, you know what, I can do this, and they
Sure.
pool their friends together because each one has a trade that they can
Mhm.
contribute, and they buy their first and they
Sure.
do their first build. What would be the sage wisdom after all the punches that you've taken and the successes that you would
Mhm.
pass on to these guys?
I would tell them to go try to find a guy like I did. I'm telling you, guys that want especially, like, people that need lots, big builders. And there's usually a local guy, not, the nationals maybe, but find that guy and or find those people and say, "Hey, look, what what are you looking for? What would you like? And if I can find something, is there some way we c" I would try to find something for someone that to me, you can have the best success and get involved in this if you can find it, which means, honestly, probably just calling and knocking on doors of farmers and just networking, being a land guy, so to speak. But somehow getting involved with somebody that's already done it and trying to kinda get that education for free kinda, you know what I'm saying? Like, even if you don't get much in the game, but hey, kinda partner up. I would try to find a partner in somebody that has done it and done it well, and then work through it like that because they're gonna keep you from making a lot of mistakes, and I did that without even knowing I was doing that, you know what I mean? Like, that's just how I got into it. But it was invaluable for me, and I still made some major mistakes, but, you know and I also learned something, if you are dealing with banks, it's always better to have a partner that is more wealthy than you. You know what I mean? Find a partner that's more wealthy than you because if you're in a deal and you have 2 and I had this, and you got a partner or 2 partners, and they go broke, they still looking at me.
Yeah.
They're still looking at me. So I said, "Next go round, I'm gonna get guys that got more money than me." That Riverview Cove, I didn't need the guy I got to be my partner. I didn't need him. It wasn't a big enough project. I could have done it alone, but I got him because still at the end of the day, I knew it was a home run. He'd been very good to me, and I wanted to keep that relationship, and this is my kinda way of saying, "Hey, man, you" and I still put up the money as he did. We both put up the same money. I did all the work. Now his company helped too. He's got good development guys, but it was at the end of the day, I think it's about relationships in this business and trust, and good partnerships are hard to come by. I've been lucky to be in a few really good partnerships, and I've also been in ones that, man, I wish I hadn't really gone in with that guy. And at the end of the day, what's the difference? Find people with character, find people, whoever you're gonna do this with, make sure at the end of the day they have character. And character, how I define it, is who you are when nobody's looking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's because at the end of the day, the guy that just built my house, he built it cost plus, and we did it on a handshake. We never signed a contract because we already knew each other well enough to know, look, we're not gonna have a problem because I know his character and he knew mine, and we did not have a problem. Did not sign a contract, which I think we just never got around to it because neither one of us were that damn concerned about it. Because he looked at me one day, he goes, we don't have a contract. I said, you want to get one? I don't care. And he goes, nah, we're good. But those are people I like to partner with,
Yeah.
and they're hard to find, man.
There's a philosophy that I've lived by. I got it from, again, something I learned from someone else. And they said, whenever I look at a project, anything, it's got to satisfy three pillars. It's got to be easy, lucrative, and fun.
Mhm.
Easy, lucrative, and fun. And if one of those is missing, the other two have to make up the difference. And if it doesn't check those boxes, he says, you know what? There's something else that's going to come along. There's
Yeah.
always going to be something else that will come along.
I've seen a lot of guys around here, and I'm sure it's nationwide, that have just kinda become, and it blows my mind how they can do this, but they will get and these guys usually generally don't have much. They're kinda like land guys, and they will get they'll get some old farmer to tie up their land for damn near a year with no earnest money. I mean, whatever, no hard money, and then they just start go shopping it to the DRs or the John Joneses or the Lennars, and, they make, or they'll take it through entitlement, and it blows my mind how successful a lot of them have been, but they knock on a hell of a lot of doors, and I'm telling you, that's the key. It's like you make money on anything when you buy it typically. So it's just, man, if you can make yourself valuable to find the deals and build the relationships with the farmers or the descendants of the farm, there's a little guy I dealt with a few years ago, and this kid was a hustler. He was 24 years old, but he was sharp as a tack, and we did a real estate deal together over the phone, just a little ordinary house, and I didn't know how old he was. I just talked to him on the phone, and I was like, "Man, I'm kinda taken with this guy. I like his energy." He came in one day, I was like, "Shit, dude, how old are you?" He goes, "I'm 20." I think he's 23. I said, "Man, damn, you're sharp. How long you been doing this?" "Yeah, a couple years." He had gotten into the fix and flip thing and started doing all that too. He had a couple people just making calls for him, the damn calls we get all day long, I guess, sell this, sell that. Something happened. I guess COVID hit, and he said that wasn't working because everybody was getting modifications. He said nobody he got a list from the probate courts. He got that list, and he just had his people cold calling, the heirs to these properties, and I swear, man, he brought me 2 deals. We actually did one. We just tracked it up. We didn't have to develop it. It was just like tracks off the road. Did great on it. 100% lady lived in North Carolina. You know, I don't know how you find them, but if you can find them, then all of a sudden you've got some and tie them up, then you have value. You have huge value. These big guys doing these deals, they don't have the time to run around and look at deals, to make those phone calls and direct mails and all the shit you gotta do to just have one of them fall out. But they'll pay handsomely for someone that can find them that. And so to me, that's the way to get into a deal early on, is that's where you bring your value. Find the damn thing, try to be a part of the deal and learn kinda on somebody else's dime. You're bringing the sweat equity of finding the property, which is huge.
That sounds like what Mike Ferry used to say, willing buyer, willing seller, get in between them.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Find somebody that has a need, and let's provide them a solution,
Yeah.
and that solution is find me some damn lots.
John, I see the runway in sight here. Anything that we haven't covered that you want to touch on?
On the development side, it's gotten leaner for us in this area. It's hard to make money when you're competing with these big dogs. Now, I tell you something else. I've been in contract negotiations with farmers or trying to get them to pick me to do business with. And I'm telling them, look, man, here's the difference between me and a national. My contract's 2 pages. 2 pages. It's very straightforward. Their contract's gonna be 40 pages, and they're gonna have every out because, and I don't blame them, they will tie up a lot of things and then have meetings, put it, well, you know what? We really like this one. This fits our matrix better. They're going to throw schools. They're going to throw traffic. They're going to throw all this in there. And so if you deal with a big boy, you better have an attorney read the contract and you better be ready to wait. And they'll keep screwing you around. They're gonna come back and beat you down typically. I mean, they don't care. I gotta live here, okay? That's who you're dealing with. So I don't care what they tell you they're gonna pay you on that contract, it means nothing.
I would think reputation and the fact that you're local, has that helped you in cases like this?
It
Yeah.
has, because the opportunity I got on the one that didn't work out the other day, and it was no fault of theirs, was referred to me from the family that I did Riverview Cove with.
Yeah.
They were lifelong Murfreesboro family. They knew my grandparents. They knew our people, and they really wanted, and I was competing, and I paid a top dollar for it. Doesn't matter now, it didn't turn into anything, but I got it because I mean, I went out and sat with them. I sat, they're in their 70s. I went out and sat with them for several hours on a couple different occasions, and just tried to build likability and try to let them understand, "Hey, I'm gonna do everything I can to make it work,"
Well, you're
and
you're leading with the giving hand, you're not trying to take anything from them,
right. I
right?
mean, but I think that it's about, at the end of the day, relationships are so important,
Yeah.
but I always tell, be wary of the big boys. Hey, and I'm not knocking them, man. They got shareholder. I'd probably have to operate the same way if I were like them, I mean, it's just different. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
The relationship capital, I'm still a broker, right? So I'm still
Right.
out selling. Last year, I did a deal with a old retired couple. They came to see one of the listings that I had, and her health was starting to go, so they needed a bungalow, everything on one level, and then a 100-acre farm to sell. And they said, "Well, we gotta sell our farm to buy this place." And I said, "Well, I can come out there and take a look, kinda give you a spitball what I think it's worth." And I went over, took a look at it. I'm guessing it was about 1,200,000, 1,300,000. I said, "Here's what I'm gonna do. If you want me to sell it, first thing, I'm gonna knock on a bunch of doors right here around the other farms, because chances
Mhm.
are one of these farmers has been eyeing your farm since you moved in here."
Right.
And that's what happens up here, especially the cattle guys. They're always looking
Sure.
for land.
Sure.
And they said, "Then you're gonna pay me a whole bunch of money to do that. But what I'm gonna suggest is this weekend, instead of me doing it, you go out, knock on a bunch of doors, and let them know that you're thinking about selling your farm. Here's what I think it's worth. See
Mhm.
what happens, and then get back
Right.
to me." Monday morning, I get a call. They're all excited. They talk to their neighbor. First door they knocked
Right.
on, he
Isn't it
wants to
funny,
buy
like, they'd never talked about it before?
full
Yeah.
offer, 1,300,000, and they're just happy as pigs in shit. But
Right.
from that, you're thinking, "Okay, I just gave up 2.5 points."
Right.
They've referred 5 different people to me, and they bought my listing. So it goes
You
back to
ne
you. Yeah, your reputation precedes you. People
you
know.
never go wrong
Yeah,
helping people, you know? And I tell a lot up here, a lot of the people up here said they give me a hard time. They go, you know, about somebody taking advantage of me from being giving. And I said, "You know what? That's gonna happen. But all I can tell you is that the big guy has taken care of me in
yeah,
so many crazy circumstances, and he keeps taking care of me. So I can't tie everything to, you know what I'm saying? Like, every relationship, you can't tie it to, well, did I win in that relationship? Did I get what I should have gotten? If you do, you'll go crazy and you'll live in scarcity and you will lose the giving spirit. If you give with your heart and don't worry about anything, just be a good person,
yeah.
you will be taken care of.
Let
I
me
promise
I wanna jump on that for a second. There was a builder that I interviewed out of Arizona, Jim Lawler, and, him and husband, wife, team, and then the son got into the business. And I asked him that question, "Was there ever a time that your back was against the wall and you thought, 'That's it, we're done. We've tried everything, we're done.'" And he started tearing up, and he said, "Yeah, that was, I think, 2008, the recession when it hit." And he said, I just prayed to God, and I said, 'Okay, we're in your hands. Tell me what you wanna do.'" And I said, "Well, okay, great strategy. I know Jesus was a carpenter, but I don't think he's gonna come down with hammer and nails to help you, man. Like, tell me
right.
more about this." He says, "Michael, that's when I dug into my faith, and I knew whatever happened is meant to happen, but we're gonna move forward the best we can, and we're still gonna, with integrity, praying every day." Like, just so he had that whole package, and it was so moving. And now he's thriving in Arizona, one of the have you
I
ever had that kind of position where the
well,
back's up
yeah,
against the wall and you're thinking, "We're done"?
Man, I'm about to tear up because I didn't get into a lot of that when we were talking about the '08 through '12, but I, make light of it and got in a fetal position. And honestly, I did that. I was in that mindset for probably a year, kind of, and then I realized this is not. This is real. And I remember distinctly saying, "You know what, God, I can't handle this. I need you." And I just turned it over. And from that day forward, for the next few years, I had the same routine every day. I got up, I brushed my teeth, I put on my clothes, I went to the gym, I took my clothes, I had a shower in this new office I just built, and I came in here. Before I even took a shower, I went through my devotional, I prayed, I prayed hard, I journaled, and I said, "Just guide me." And I can tell you some stories off record that happened. There's no way. There's no way. You say, "John, that's crazy." Like the bank calling me on Monday saying we need 200 grand and I don't have it. And then I get a call from a partner in a commercial building that has no idea what I'm going through because they're in other businesses. It says, "Hey man, Brian and I were just talking, and dude, we know you have a lot of real estate. If you ever want to, we love this. We love this property. We'll buy you out." And I said, "Okay." I never even thought that was an option because trying to tear up a partnership. And the check after it all cleared 45 days later was 201. And I take it, I give it to the bank. That happened twice,
Yeah,
twice within days of getting that call. And I promise you, there was no things that just aren't natural happened. I mean, just bizarre. Like, I didn't even think about going to them because how are we gonna get all that untangled, And, it just it so I get it. I get exactly what that guy's saying.
man. You're a
I
good
get
man.
exactly.
That's why it comes back, right? It's what
I
you put
went
out
I
there.
went I went to John Floyd, he was, he had Old South. They're building 800 homes a year. He had all these land positions because when you're that big a builder, you're always looking 2, 3 years down the road. So he had a lot of debt, pretty good amount of cash, but the banks were coming at him right and left, and he was playing the game till he finally said, "Screw you guys, call my takeout attorney," But anyway, he made it through it, but I remember going to him in the middle of it, like, probably 2 years in and going, "Dude, is it ever gonna change? Is this the new normal?" Because that's your brain starts playing tricks on you. And he looked at me, and here's how this is what we deduced it to. This is he looked at me, he goes he had these real big eyes, He goes, "Well, people are still having sex, aren't they?" And I go, "Yeah, I think so." He goes, "Well, that means they gotta have babies, right?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, they're gonna have a place to live, right?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I think we're gonna be okay." I mean, that's what we took it down to realize, okay, this is gonna work itself out. We just people gotta have a place to live.
Yeah,
We just gotta get this economy back on track, you know? And it took
yeah.
4 or 5 years, you know? '08 through '13.
I think
So,
I've got a good way to land the plane on this one, John.
okay.
I'm
Don't let me
gonna
keep talking.
tap into your faith here for a second. I want you to pretend, and this isn't gonna happen for a long, long, long time. It'll probably be longer than the bells going off in the background. But I want you to think you wake up one morning and you realize you're dead, which is kind of an oxymoron that you woke up and you're dead. And next thing you know, you're sitting there at St. Peter's Gate, and Peter's got an iPad because of AI and everything's cutting edge, and he's looking at you, and he's got the iPad, and he's scrolling through, and you realize he's watching videos. And then he says, "Come on over here, young man." And you come up beside him, and he's watching your life story on his iPad. And he's going through these little vignettes and he's looking at you, he's kind of chuckling. And, a few of them, he kind of points his finger and then he just stops and he puts the tablet down. He looks at you and says, "John, not today. You're not getting in today. There's something you haven't done yet." What is that something?
Wow, man. I'm just sitting here sweating on all the stuff he might have seen. I'm like, "God, I hope that ain't how they do it." I don't know. I think there's something big that I'm supposed to do for this community, and I don't really know what it is, but it's being in this real estate business and seeing what you've seen, and then our schools aren't getting any better really, in general, and I've often wanted it's the first time I've ever verbalized it. I've often thought about school and my experience in school, and even in college when I had, a major, and said, man, it really did not prepare me for what, even though I was a business major, I didn't know it doesn't prepare you. You have to almost go out and do it. And I know there's some things out there like junior achievement and stuff, but if we can take something and put it in with these kids, especially maybe around, I don't know, middle school, and like teach them basic accounting, teach them how to run businesses, teach them how the money really works, how to understand it in a way they can understand it at that age. How these, just I never will forget this. I went and sold fire extinguishers in college for a company that I was a college athlete, and they would go to the schools and try to get you to come do it. And you basically go back to your hometown, blah, blah, blah. So when I was up there training, there was a guy from Florida State. His name was Tyrell Buckley. He ended up being he's going to be a first rounder the next year. Okay. Everybody knew that. Big time player. Played for the Packers, I think. But this is when he's a senior in college and before they're paying the heck out of him. So he's selling fire extinguishers. And we had to go through this course where we had to, they showed us how to remit checks back to the company, this, that, and other. Poor guy had never signed a check in his life. We had to teach him how to sign a check. This guy's fixing to make millions. He didn't know how to write out a check. And I'm not dogging him. There's a lot of people in that boat. And now we really don't have checks much. But what I'm saying is, if I want to help the community, let's help these young guys. Let's help these kids, teach them about entrepreneurship, teach them about things where they can do things like that in this community, which is going to help the community. Whether it's in this Elon Musk or John Jones or Michael Chris, let's build these guys up to understand things a lot sooner than we all kind of learned them, My first check, I didn't know who FICA was. I didn't know what it was. I was a college graduate. I get my first check at State Farm. I go, who the hell's FICA or FICA? I didn't
Okay,
know.
I
That's
got it.
I know
I
you're from
got it.
Canada.
I
That's our
got it.
status.
Here's what we do, okay? My neighbor used to say, talk is cheap. It takes money to buy whiskey,
Yeah.
okay? Here's the challenge. I've got access to funding, entitlement money,
Mhm,
and it's designed for schools to be able
mhm.
to bring in somebody to teach shop, not home ec, but hands-on skills to get
Sure.
kids into the trades.
Right.
If you want to approach the local school and say, here's what we need to do, we need to bring shop class back in, or
Yep.
maybe it's the middle school.
Right.
I can help you get the money for that.
All right. Deal. I'm gonna talk to some educators and see where we're at on that.
Okay. I just interviewed the guy yesterday who's in charge of the endowment fund for the National Association of Home Builders. And their biggest problem is they've got money, they got to give it away. Where does it go?
I know. And we took so much of that out of the schools, 15 or 20 years ago. But I'm telling you right now, a kid that go learn refrigeration that might evolve you're gonna make some pretty good money right away.
Yep.
Evolve into own a HVAC company. I've seen so many subcontractor guys around here that have done so exceptionally well,
Oh, and you
you
wouldn't
know?
even know it. There's one builder I interviewed. He said I had to get the plumber to come over and work on one of my properties, and this is in California. So his
Mhm.
properties are like 5-10 million within that range. So the really nice guy pulls up in his truck, nice truck, he's got his logo on the side, gets out, he's got the logo on the shirt, he's got his toolbox. Guy's got a G6, like a Gulfstream jet,
Don't you love that? I love
right?
that though.
And yeah, he says, I would have never known it until I got to know the guy. We went out for beers and he told me his story. Same thing, starts off with nothing, learns a trade, puts in his time, and then he starts growing. He employs people. And then ultimately it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's the story. So going back to America is the land of opportunity, this guy
100%.
saw the opportunity and rather than talk about it, he did it. So I'm going to bring it back to you, young man. Rather than
Let's
talk
do
about it,
Keep
let's
talking.
do it.
Talk's cheap. Talk's cheap. Thank you, Michael.
It's been a
You're a
pleasure,
good
sir.
man. You're a good man. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks for listening to Builder Straight Talk. Make sure to like, comment, and share this episode on your favorite social media platform. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, available wherever you get your podcast streaming fix. Until next time, keep building smarter. This episode is made possible by our parent company, Sound Capital, funding built for builders.